Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the Akim who are tuning into these videos. In this video, I'm going to read just a few lines from these articles that I have lined up and go into the scriptures pertaining to what is currently happening here in the California state in the Bay Area. And Trump has been speaking this here and there on the news, and he wants to send the National Guard here in California to start policing the city, because if you are a local, you would know that this place is very unsafe, and you got a lot of transits and a lot of bug outs pretty much just going around being very aggro and just full of demons. The littlest thing will cause these people to crash out and lash out all that anger that they have pent up. And so that's why Trump is basically saying, like, this city needs to be cleaned up. Now, pertaining to prophecy, we have been speaking about how this is going to happen. And just because what this article is saying, that DJ Trump is trying to send the troops in, but a colleague of his told him to back down on that, is just basically what I believe a flex of power and also testing the waters. Because you best believe that this is just them doing trial runs, so that when they have to send in the National Guard, when a lot of things in prophecy is starting to happen, there's going to be no excuse. There's not going to be a reason to back down from this. They're going to have whatever false flag that they push out in the agenda and these things that are happening constantly on the world stage, that they're going to have no other option. And a lot of people are going to be with it. And a lot of people are still going to be against it. Like last week, you had this No Kings March or whatever. And basically, you got a lot of these bug outs going up and down the streets of San Francisco. And they're just saying that they don't like Donald Trump because they don't regard him. They don't regard the kings or princes of the people in charge of this place. They, even though a lot of people voted for Trump, you got a lot of people who voted for him who are basically having buyer's remorse, saying that they probably voted for the wrong guy. And that's ultimately because of prophecy's sake. This place, America, which is known as Babylon the Great, is prophesied to be destroyed. And before that great destruction in World War III, you're going to see this place degrade more and more and more with the crimes and the lawlessness. And even the people who inhabit this place don't want this place to be fixed. They would have healed Babylon, but she is forsaken. And you can see that very clearly, like if you watch what's happening on the news or read these certain articles, that these are things that us here at Great Millstone, starting from our apostles and elders on down, for several years have been speaking about these things. And now the elite are starting to flex their power and testing the waters, so to speak. So in this article, I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It says, Trump backs away from sending federal troops to San Francisco after pleas from tech leaders. Trump said he heard from quote-unquote friends in the tech industry, including Salesforce CEO Mark Benoit, who urged him to stand down. And if you really understand why that happened, is because a lot of these tech companies, the reason why these cities are still working is because of these heathens from other countries who are doing all of the AI work and all the coding. And you could see that these CEOs, they were basically in charge of these Fortune 500 companies or whatever, are basically just doing the bidding to get this MOTB going and all this AI BS that they're starting to build upon. They're not really going door to door trying to kick out these heathens who are working properly, but rather their mindset is they want to take out the northern and the southern kingdom, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's really who they're gunning for. They're not really speaking about the Elamites or the Ammonites who are in this country illegally or their visas have expired, because those people are working for them. And so in this article, I'm just going to read it real quick. It says, President Donald Trump said Thursday that he is calling off plans to deploy federal troops to San Francisco after having spoken to the mayor and following backlash from the tech industry.
The federal government was prepared to surge San Francisco, California on Saturday, but friends of mine who live in the area called last night to ask me not to go forward with the surge in that the mayor, Daniel Luer, was making substantial progress, Trump said on Truth Social. And he's not. Like, we here, locals of this place are always having to look behind our backs. People are constantly brandishing knives and just literally going crazy. Like, quite literally, the only safe thing in San Francisco are safe injection sites. So this place is a joke. And this guy right here, DJ Trump, this is basically what I perceive is them just flexing their powers, testing the waters. Because you best believe all the resources and infrastructure that they have for the National Guards and the FEMA camps will be utilized. This is basically just like, it reminds me back in 2020 when they were basically just flexing their powers, testing the waters, so to speak. And in this article, just to showcase all these governors and mayors and kings and princes or whatever, they're bumping heads. They don't see eye to eye. Satan's house is divided. Can two walk together except they be agreed? And so this place right here, America, you can see that all their leaders are basically going at each other. In this article, it says Pelosi, California cops may arrest ICE agents if they violate law. And the title really speaks for itself, is that they're not really for the involvement of the federal agents. They don't want Donald Trump, who's working at the White House, sending these agents to do these certain things. And that's when all of a sudden these Californian politicians become full-blown Americans. They start to say that they're breaking the First Amendment right, Second Amendment rights, or whatever. The list goes on whatever excuses these guys have to do. But ultimately, in the spiritual discernment of things, this is prophecy speaking, and the looming threat of Jacob's trouble. Because you best believe there just needs to be the right false flag and all the tests to go through and be completed for them to actually initiate martial law. And when that happens, there's going to be implementations of the MOTB. And if you're not with the program, you're going to be sent to those camps. And that's what we're preaching here in Jeremiah 30:7. This is going to be a trouble like none other. That if you're not able to trust in Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, you're not going to be out here with a covering. You're not going to be protected with the spirit of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. And the archangels are not going to protect you. So this is why we're sounding the alarm now and speaking about these things. And we have been speaking about this. We're reiterating these things at these points, that these things are going to continue to escalate. They're not going to slow down, and they're not going to stop. So in Jeremiah 30:7, it speaks about this time. It says, "Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." So Jacob's trouble is the time in the very last days when everybody is going to be put in that hour of temptation. Even the hopeful elect are going to be going through trials and tribulations. So that's why with all thy getting, get understanding. Wisdom and knowledge is going to be the stability of thy times, and the fear of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai is what's going to protect you in these times. It's your treasure. And so that is Jacob's trouble. And that what it's speaking about, but he shall be saved out of it, are those who are standing stiffly for Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. And we're not with any of these presidents. Although we kind of like speak about certain things when Trump does this, or when Kamala Harris did that, ultimately we're just laughing at the shit show that American politics is, because none of these people are agreeing with each other. And then you look at the people who put these people in power, none of those people agree with each other. And that's just prophecy speaking, Egyptian against Egyptian. And there's going to be a spirit of confusion down here amongst these people. That's why we tell people who follow us to not worry about the cares of and the affairs of this world, politics and whatnot. We don't advocate for voting. That's something that the heathen do. That's something that the Egyptians aspire to do and put all their trust in. But we trust in Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. And when we read these precepts, you should understand that these things are actually applying to things that are happening in today's times. And so this is in 2nd Ezra 15, and I'm going to start at, let me see, I'll start at verse 8, because this chapter is very strong and big, especially right now in today's times. And we go into it a lot because of the things that are happening right now. Biblical prophecy is what's happening. So starting in I'll start at verse 7 actually. It says, "Therefore saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually." And that the souls of the just is representative of the hopeful elect in these days. When Yahushua returns, he is going to find faith on the earth. And those brothers are constantly making videos, edifying for the elect's sake, doing what Yahushua spoke about, feeding his sheep and giving this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding so that we are able to overcome the evil days. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to survive these things which to take place in America, which is known as Babylon, once they start enacting their actual power. So right now they're really just testing the waters, but just wait. It will surely come. It will not tarry. So I'm going to continue on, verse 9. It says, "And therefore saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." And this place right here, which is known as spiritually Sodom in Egypt, all these wicked kingdoms, is where our people, the so-called blacks and Latinos and Native Americans, are essentially led to the slaughter. But the elect are going to be delivered out of this. They're going, like, if you could think like all that sheep being herded into the slaughterhouse, the small remnant of those are going to jump over the fence because they heard their true shepherd, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. But ultimately, this place right here, known as America, Babylon the Great, you can pretty much say that this place is a giant slaughterhouse for the Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Just look at the history of this place. So I'm going to continue on in verse 11. It says, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." And so that's something else that's going to happen. Plagues, just as what happened with Egypt, same thing is going to happen here in America. There's going to be earthquakes, wars and rumors of wars, all these things that are going to take place. But see that you are not troubled by these things, because you are supposed to overcome those things, as the ones of the hopeful elect are destined to do. But I'm going to continue on in verse 12. And just to say this also, because you read these precepts and they should uplift you. You should be able to overcome all these trials and tribulations because of the Spirit dwelling with you. And you have that faith right there that you are going to overcome these things, and that Egypt ultimately is done. We have no rest here. We don't have a continuing city, but we seek one to come. And that faith right there is what Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is looking for when he returns. So in verse 12 it says, "Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plagues and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful consolation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword draweth," like it says, "for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." And you're going to see a lot of civil unrest. This No Kings protest wasn't like that, but you best believe the next ones will be like that. It's only the right false flag and the narrative that's being pushed out here that's going to trigger all of these events. And continuing on in verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power." Because all these people, especially here, what you call the so-called left-leaning liberals of California, they're going up against the rulers of Babylon, America, DJ Trump, and they're not with his program, his plan, and whatever his motives are. That's Egyptian against Egyptian, Satan's house being divided. And it trickles down also to just everybody. None of these people are happy in America. When the wicked rule, the people mourn, but when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And I just exited out of that picture of DJ Trump looking super through. None of these people are rejoicing. Even the people that voted for Trump aren't rejoicing. It's like none of these people can catch a break, pretty much. But those of the elect, when they see these things and they read the scriptures and they hear what the Spirit is saying, we're rejoicing in these things because this is just prophecy speaking. All right, so I'm going to continue on. Verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the courses of their action shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able." Now, with the premise of ICE agents coming here to California to lasso up the so-called Hispanics who don't belong here, the wetbacks, if you will, that is an indicator that these people aren't able to go into a city. But you best believe that situation, that the ICE agents, the martial law troops, they're not just going to be looking for so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans. Pretty much towards the end of this situation, this conflict that they're about to raise to everybody, is if you don't have that MOTB, then you're not going to be able to go anywhere. They're going to start cutting off certain amenities. And so that's what's going to take place when these troops come here. You're not going to be able to just go here and there to the city like you're able to now. You're going to have to go through checkpoints, military checkpoints. If you watch that movie, I Am Legend, in the beginning of the movie, Will Smith, the actor in that movie, was going through checkpoints because if you remember in that movie, there was like a quarantine situation happening, but only a few people were able to go in and out of the city. That is what is going to take place in these last days. So I'm going to read this last precepts in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, and I'll read in verse 1. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." And so this right here is to telling you to remember right now the Creator. Return to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So this precept right here is really about today's time, of what you should be doing with all fervency and sincerity and truth, returning to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, because these evil days aren't exactly started yet, but we can see them looming. So while the evil days come not, return to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Turn off from your evil ways and sup with us. But I'm going to continue on, verse 2. It says, "While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the keeper of the houses tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the window be darkened." And that representing of grinding is there ain't going to be no work out here. There's going to be so many troops out here just lassoing people and deporting them, detaining them, putting them in these camps. And ultimately, you can see that happening now. None of these cities really have storefronts anymore. A lot of the restaurants are through, and ultimately America, Babylon, is in trillions of dollars of debt. And every move that these elites do is not beneficial for the common people. So the grinding is pretty much ceased. It's at a standstill at this point. Continuing on, verse 4, it says, "And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." So even the mirth of this place is down, and none of these people are trying to bring it back up. Even if they tried, this place is ultimately cursed, and it's weighed in the balance, and it's about to be judged. But with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem Rakal Kadash. And as you can see all these things happening, we should be rejoicing. All these precepts are starting to happen in our very eyes. in real time, if you will. But with that, I just want to say shalom to the hopeful elect.